Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Are Wavemakers. And you are here with me, Rachel, and my co host, Nadzirah, or many know her as Naz.
Hi.
Hi. We're now on episode 2 of season 1, and this season's theme is all about influencer marketing. Today's topic will focus on the influencers themselves, and we'll be finding out how to compensate an influencer in your collaboration. Why does that matter, Naz?
Well, Rach, for starters, this really matters because a lot of businesses are asking us this question. A lot of times when we're conducting our workshops with businesses, we work with in this topic. So a lot of them do not know how to put a value to what an influencer should be compensated. They'd ask us, how do we value an influencer with 100,000 followers versus 200,000 followers? And it'll ask us things like, what is the industry standard for these people, and do we pay them cash? So we usually have to come up in and judge. Sorry, we wouldn't judge them, but we would be like looking through the numbers and guide them towards negotiating the right deal so both parties win.
Okay, I see. But what about the influencers? Do you think they're overcharging or not being paid enough? I mean, I've seen some crazy numbers for some of them asking from brands to compensate. And I'm just wondering, how do we draw the line on what's fair?
That's a very good question, Rach, as there are a lot of influencers out there who are shamelessly asking for freebies, and that ruins the brand's perceptions of them. The thing is, like, for influencers who are actually taking the time to curate the best content for the brand, they should get compensated what they deserve. And whether in cash or kind or a combination of both, the brands and influencers really need to agree on what value both parties bring. And so it's really important that we really think about drawing that line of like having the balance for the influencer and the brand.
Right, that is very important indeed. So that brings us to our next guest today, which will be speaking to a Malaysian based influencer. A little introduction about the person we're speaking to today. Today we have Hanie. Hanie Hidayah is a fashion and travel blogger and TV host who also dabbles in social media marketing strategies and pretty much has been in the industry since college days. In fact, we went to Monash University, Malaysia together like a million years ago.
Yeah, you're not that old.
Uh, and who would have thought we would be chatting today about work related topics?
That is a fun fact, Rachel. I didn't know you both went to the same uni. Did you guys study the same thing?
No, we didn't actually have any classes together. I think she was studying in the School of Business, right, honey?
Yep, correct. And you were in arts, right?
Yes, I was in a School of Arts.
Cool. Did Monash have any subjects on influencer marketing, Rachel?
Sadly, at that time when we went to school, I believe Instagram was in its infancy stage and bloggers were more prominent in the scene, which is interesting actually, as I believe Honey started out as a blog before migrating to Instagram.
Yeah, I remember because I used to read her blog way back when. And it's kind of surreal that we're having an interview with her today because I've pretty much seen her evolve fashion wise and like channel wise. In fact, she's pretty much migrated her voice to Instagram and today speaks about a range of topics. And I still personally find it interesting. But let's hear it from her ourselves.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So I'm going to get to the questions right away. So, Honey, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. Hi.
You're welcome. So, in your Instagram, you're not afraid to share your very personal stories in your life, which we really love as it brings out authenticity. But we were wondering, how does a travel or fashion blogger find the balance between being authentically you while fulfilling your client's marketing message?
Ooh, okay. So this has been something that's personally tricky for years. I mean, it's much easier during blogging days, where I could just write an in-depth review about a product or a post-event write-up. But with Instagram, it moves really fast. And sometimes I have to justify with clients that, one posting will just be brushed so easily with just one swipe. And I'll always have to ask them what is the key message that they really want to present to the audience. And of course, I have to find the balance in captions and also finding the right visuals to attract the attention without trying too hard. And, there are clients who will still want a very salesy kind of post, right?
That's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
So would you say that that brings an impact on your engagement when you have to do like super salesy type of messaging?
I mean, definitely, because I have tried, like even taking product photos which are nice, and it does not get as many likes as a normal posting, let's say. But I always have to tell the client, like a disclaimer of some sort, and tell them that they cannot expect the same kind of engagements. And once people know it's a product post, it's an ad, and that's it.
Yeah. And do you find like when you were blogging last time there was a difference in like you were mentioning something about it being more in depth? Uh, does that mean the authenticity as a blogger is much more easier than say for Instagram?
I would definitely say it is, because I find Instagram to not be a review kind of platform. It's
Right.
just more of like an awareness, like, hey, this is something new. Would you
Yeah.
want to check it out? That's it.
Yeah.
But reviews on Instagram is just weird because sometimes it's too short to say in one posting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and some products you need to use it for a while for it to work. And
Yeah.
how do you balance that out? It's much more difficult for me.
Does that like so do you think like compensation wise there is a difference between say blogging and Instagramming?
Ooh, compensation wise. Well, blogging last time, I think the difference is that people were more willing to pay for
Yeah.
blogs
Right.
because they know the amount of work that's being put into it. You have to take photos, you have to test it out, you have to really write
Yeah.
um, a review, or like write a lengthy post about one product.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? But for Instagram, I think it's very, very visual. So as long as the visual is captivating to the audience, I think that's what people are paying for.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So how would you say, like, since you've transitioned from like an old school blogger to, this day 2019, how do you feel about Instagram? Would you say that it's a good platform as a blogger to showcase your work, or do you feel like it's too competitive? What are your thoughts on this channel per se?
Well, I personally find that Instagram is getting very, very competitive. And if you
Okay.
open the explore page, I mean, the amount of
Yeah.
content you have to go through to find something
Yeah.
you like. And
Yeah.
they're starting to look a bit similar as well.
Correct. Yep.
And Instagram is still great for visuals. If you are the type of person that looks at visuals and you're the type of person that looks at micro content, yes. But if like this year, I'm seeing like a shift in platforms as well. And people are moving away from Instagram because it is getting too competitive.
Right.
How would I say this? People with who can do more things or have personalities and they can talk, they would move to Twitch, for
Mm-hmm.
instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a live streaming platform, and um, I just don't. I'm just not sure if Instagram
Mm-hmm.
is for everyone.
I was gonna add
Okay.
to that, like platforms like Twitch though. Are you on it, for example?
I'm not, but I actually watch people streaming on Twitch because they are really, really good.
Yeah.
When hosting something like a show, or they have personalities that you follow.
Right, right. Okay. And what about other platforms like, Twitter and all that? Do you still think that's relevant for influencers in this day and age? Because, for example, I started getting back into Twitter, like it's so weird. I wasn't on Twitter, and for the longest time, I would only tweet like one time a year or two times a year. And now I'm scoping the scene, I'm checking out what's going on in that scene, and I see that people are still very active there, but it's a kind of market, like it's a specific type of market, like how you said Instagram has a specific kind of market, so everybody's kind of like going segmented to different platforms.
Oh yeah. I think Twitter is for people who are more vocal. Um, they don't mind to like speak their mind up, and For Instagram, I mean, you can do that on stories, on live, but not really.
All right. So I'm going to shift back like our conversation to the topic of Instagram again. And basically, I don't know if you guys heard, but there was this rumors about, Instagram wanting to like have this feature where they're going to hide like the likes. So what do you think about the direction of likes being hidden from others? Like your content creator, do you think it's going to impact the amount of businesses who's going to work with you?
I think there would be an impact, and also there will be a period of adjustment for
Okay.
brands to figure out like how do they get the numbers, or like how do they
Mm-hmm.
show, like if, especially for agencies, how do they show to their clients that it's justifiable, the
Mm-hmm.
money that they're putting into on these influencers after the
Mm-hmm.
likes are being removed, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also, I mean, I'm not too worried if
Okay.
I produce good content, because now people are already moving towards micro influencers
Mm-hmm.
where the engagements are more authentic, higher, but they have low following. So I don't think it would be an issue, like not a
Mm-hmm.
big issue per se.
All right. How would you approach it though? Like, say, if you were to work with a client now and this feature is already implemented, what would you offer to your, client?
I think personally, it'll be back to the blogging days, because when you blogged last time, you don't have the amount of likes. People just read, and when clients ask for statistics, you just screenshot the statistics, internally, and just send it to them. So I think it's
Yeah.
more fair. So brands can choose people who they want to work with that suits the brand, instead of going for the number of likes.
From what I understand, the Instagram likes feature as well is meant to be hidden from the eye view of like any user, but actually the influencer can still actually present those if necessary for the brand. But as Hani mentioned, it makes perfect sense to also give additional insights to the brand, and that so that the brand understands that this is the person's actual statistics. Like one of the challenges we find is a lot of bloggers, I mean, I know Honey, you're more into giving statistics because you care about these things, but a lot of them are not willing to share their insights. And that's kind of strange, knowing the fact that you're trying to monetize off this from a business, you know what I mean? So I do think it's a business should not fear to request for these statistics. And to be fair to the businesses as well, I mean, some of them don't know
Yeah.
that they can request these things, you
Yeah.
know? And these are parts where we are trying to bridge that gap of like knowing you can ask for statistics to the influencer, and also that influencer should give that integrity and,
Oh yeah.
basically give it back, So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, if you're going to hire someone for their service, you got to know whether they're good or not, no?
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's only fair. All right. So, speaking of content, do you believe the value of content creation is being underappreciated by businesses at the moment?
Well, yes.
It's okay. You can be honest.
It's fine.
This
It's
is a safe
fine.
space.
I mean, I've been in this industry for like 10 years, and I have had my fair share of meeting businesses that wants to engage content creators, and they don't understand the value of the content, let alone the effort, money, and time being put to create one. The one thing that I've always heard was that, hey, it's just a photo, but you can snap it with your phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
But then again, if that's the case, then everyone's an influencer.
Absolutely.
That's
So,
true. That's true.
in an ideal world, how do you think businesses should compensate influencers? Is cash still king or are exchanges fine?
Okay, so ad agencies to me take time, like for months, right, to plan a content. And it's also the same for influencers. It's just that we're given a much shorter time to execute it. And it's only fair to compensate because of the ideation, approval, execution, amendments. There's so much process that goes into it. And it's only fair to compensate according to the influencer's preference,
Right.
because some of them would be okay with product exchange, because I know some influencers, they do have a day job, but they do this as a side thing.
Yeah.
And some actually do this for a living, so money, it would be more important to them. So
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that it's individual preference, and it's also nicer if you actually ask the influencer, like, how or what would they prefer to be compensated with, or you can offer and they counter offer, you know.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because some brands are completely like strict about it and say, oh, it's only exchanges, but they don't realize that, again, like their demands can be pretty high, and not think that, hello, like the influencer needs to do this and this and this, and how do you expect them to just, don't not get compensated unless the product is worth X amount and the value is justified? Then yeah, maybe that's fair. But if the product is not valued to the point where the effort is not justified, I don't see the point why they should. I'm on the influencers side for this particular case.
Yeah. I mean, you would want to be paid for your work too. I mean, that's how everyone wants, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the other hand, do you think that there are influencers out there who are being overcompensated for their work?
Ooh, definitely.
I
I mean, there are definitely influencers who are being overcompensated. Where, I mean, based on my personal experience, there were influencers that were just asked to do selfies, while I had to blog, do a YouTube video, and do an Instagram post for the same amount of money.
Wow.
So yeah, just because that person had more likes and followers, and how would you feel if your colleague at work who do less work than you get paid more?
Yeah. That's exactly how it sounds. Like, it's not fair,
And all this for the data? Did that person had, like, say, higher engagement than you, or it was just purely on the surface, like that person had more followers and therefore only had to take a selfie?
I mean, this is purely on the surface, but we see this happening a lot because people with higher following, it seems like they can demand more from the clients.
wow.
Yeah. So, well, it's an unfair world, I guess.
But again, like, moving it back, like, if I was a business, like, how would you shift that mindset for me to sort of help me understand that maybe I shouldn't be looking at the followers, maybe I should be looking at other things?
I mean, I wish that businesses would just pay according to the amount of work that they're asking these influencers to do. Because for me, when they ask us to do videos for them, right, we would definitely give a quality that they can put on their pages as well, not just on my platform. So basically, essentially, they're paying for a video service. But because of the influencer thing mixed in, they don't see it as that. Yeah, so they're just playing me like, oh, influencer compensation instead of like a video service.
Right. So you're basically saying, like, follow the industry standards of some sort? Is there like a standard rate that you are suggesting?
Follow the industry standard is one, but also, I mean, we all have our rates. It's negotiable, of course. When you want to engage influencers, you should see how far can you bring the content as a brand, not just like a one-off thing where it's just like, okay, you post a photo and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So as an influencer, do you then think contracts are necessary to have between you and the businesses that you work with? Or have you ever encountered an issue without the use of a contract?
It would be necessary, though. I mean,
oh yeah, contracts are definitely necessary because not all businesses understand how to work with influencers best. So, you know, you lay down the terms beforehand and you hope that things will go smooth lah. And I learned this the hard way because,
Oh.
there are brands that I thought would be trustworthy, because they're big brands, right?
Right.
But because I did not set the contract and say like, hey, we can only make 3 times adjustments or amendments to this content, they just
Right.
kept going on and on and on, and I had to reshoot like so many days.
Oh
Oh,
dear, that's
wow.
really
Yes.
unfortunate. And this is I mean, I'm not going to ask you what the name of the brand is, but it's a big brand, yeah?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's a big brand, and of course,
interesting.
usually agencies would service them, but sometimes some agencies can be yes men, and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and clients don't usually know what they like or what they want, and
Mm-hmm.
influencers are the best lab rats for them.
Oh dear.
Right. Do you think the agency should have like protected the influencer more, knowing the fact that they're the middleman in this particular situation?
Yes, but also I understand, I mean, being on that side I've been on that side as well, where, sometimes you have to secure the client and you have to manage them first because they're the ones
Mm-hmm.
paying big bucks to you.
Agreed,
Mm-hmm.
agreed.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I mean, my only thing is just, lay down the terms, payment terms, the amount of amendments that you're willing to work with, and it will save everyone's time.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So, just to wrap things up, like, that we want that one piece liner from you. Like, what would you advise businesses who are wondering what is the best approach to compensate an influencer? I mean, you gave a lot of good suggestions just now, like laying out the terms, contracts, negotiation. And so, yeah, that one piece of advice.
My one piece of advice would just be transparent with the influencers, because we're trying to work together. It's not like we're going head to head. And if you're transparent with the compensation, the payment terms, what do you want from the content itself, I think the influencers would just be okay with working with the brand. Because I mean, we have to churn out content as fast as we can and as much
Yeah.
as we can at a very short time. So as long as you can save time, everyone's happy with the product,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
should be okay.
I like that. Transparency.
Cool. All right. That's awesome, Hanie. Thank you very much for being with us today. We really appreciate it, and we really hope that other listeners actually get to learn something from this insight from a long time blogger and influencer,
Yep.
and
I can retire
con-
now.
content creator, so she's evolved that far, and learning the scopes of how she's worked with businesses. We hope that other businesses understand the perspective of an influencer, and an influencer will understand what they need to do as well, in order for them to work well with a business.
Yep.
So thank you very much, Hanie.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Honey. So, Naz, what did you think? That conversation with Honey was very insightful.
Indeed, I found that it's always nice to get a perspective of someone who's been in the industry that long and has seen the evolution of blogging to how social media has become micro blogging, and it's the thing now. Nobody uses blogs, and I remember the time when Hani announced she was gonna stop blogging. It was like in 2018, so it was as recent as last year,
Yeah.
where she was like, this is the end. And her blog is still out there, and you
Yeah.
can go back to her blog and actually see like what she wrote and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame that businesses don't recognize that value as much as they believe like Instagram is the thing now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's bad or good. I'm just saying it's really interesting that we've evolved
Yeah.
to take content at such a micro level,
Yeah.
and that brands think that just because it's smaller content, it's easier to manage, when in reality, even with Instagram, it requires thought process.
Yeah.
It requires understanding your audience,
Yeah.
and that content aspect of like, oh, we just need to pay X amount for that amount. It's not true. And I think brands need to be more aware
Yeah.
of being fair to the influencers. And then of course this goes back to the influencers,
Yeah.
like of whether or not the price point is fair.
Yeah. And I think Hanie sets a really good example into taking this role as an influencer slash blogger in a very professional and ethical way where she keeps herself informed, she does her research, she studies, she adapts. And I mean, she's open to being in this omni-channel world. And so if I was a business, I would definitely find value to compensate someone who takes it seriously.
Exactly.
And so I feel like all influencers should sort of like, you know, take Hanie's path in a way as a role model.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I really hope, I'm pretty sure there are more influencers just like Hanie.
Yeah.
And I really hope people really take that advice and really
focus on the transparency, like she said in the end. You know, it's so important to be as transparent as possible in your data and that what the business wants as well. Like, what do you actually want? What's your goal? Because this whole like mixed messaging and the bad experiences that influencers have with brands, or the other way around, always comes from the fact that both parties may have not been as transparent and as clear.
But how do you think we're going to sort of like as an agency play that role in educating businesses and clients to take this transparency approach when, you know, most times they're like, hey, ain't got time for this, can't be bothered, just give me what's cheap. So what do you think about that?
I think like as an agency, we play a responsibility to understand what best practices are and actually educating our clients about these best practices. I mean, if they hire us, they're basically trusting us to know what we're doing. And if they trust us and understand that we know what we're doing, they would also accept that the part of like being clear with our processes is super important and that they need to honor that, you know. So if they don't want to honor that, then I guess we're not the right agency for them, you know. So that is something that I do believe we need to continuously champion as an agency.
Correct.
Yeah. With that being said, I'm so happy we had this episode. It was a great one. I'm happy that we're into our second episode. And guess what, guys? On our next episode, we'll be featuring an more interesting topic, and it's about how to deal with influencer frauds.
What?
Yeah.
That actually exists, like frauds?
Yeah, influencer frauds are real and they buy likes, buy followers, and this is the thing that people are talking about right now in Europe especially. Like, how do we deal with that, and what are the best measures to take action against that? So we'll be discussing it with two special guests, so stay tuned for it. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast.
Yep, that's right. Subscribe to our podcast. And with that, my name is Rachel.
And I'm Nadzirah.
And we are Wavemakers, an integrated marketing communications agency recording live from Genesis Creative Center on the island of God's Bali.